let's do our question now. So our question block, we are interested particularly in the first one says for commodity 3 only, we should calculate the sales price, operational, and planning variance. So if we go to our sales price variance, remember our sales price variance will look like sales price variance now. So actual selling price minus
selling price.
What's that? Actual sales quantity, Abi. So I'll just write it in like that. And then we have our standard selling price. I'm praying for you. I don't think that's what you said. And then actual sales quantity. That's the expansion of our pro forma, right? Yeah. So we'll do the planning part now. So for the planning, sales price variance planning. Our sales price variance planning will be, we're comparing standard with revised standard, Abi. So revised standard price.
Yeah.
And since it's price variance, our quantity is not affected. So actual sales quantity,
the same.
And then revised standard price again. And actual sales quantity. So that's that. I don't think there's anything else to do than to just pick it now. So we go to, so for commodity 3, all right, so for commodity 3, we'll just fill in our blanks. So first of
Sorry,
all,
Mr. Brian.
Revised standard versus standard, Abi?
Yes, thank you.
I'm listening.
That's it.
That's what I wanted to say.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what I wanted
so
to tell
we
you.
use revised standard and revised standard. So it's revised standard versus actual. We will just change from where we have actual. To revised standard. To revised standard, right? And then we'll leave the other one as it were. All right, so let's pick our figures. So what's our standard, our revised standard price? So if we will, we can just come and write to give ourselves perspective that we use obviously now the average market price per unit as the revised standard, right?
Yeah.
Because that would have to be the revised standard. That's the revision from based on market information. So our revised standard price, remember we're looking for commodity 3. So for commodity 3, what's our revised standard price?
39.1.
And then our standard price?
2640.
Yeah?
39.10.
So our standard now, our standard is what? Huh?
26.
41.60.
41.60.
41.6. 41.6.
41.6.
Like I was asking, do you think that we should do for maybe commodity 1 so that we'll see that we have the same thing with them, or it doesn't make any difference?
It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it doesn't. All right, so our actual sales quantity now. Actual sales quantity for commodity 3.
25,600.
25,600.
25,600.
So it's the same thing downstairs. So we have that. And then with that, we're done. So So that's the simplest 4 marks in the exam. So that's equal to that multiplied by that, give us figure, and we can therefore our selling price variance, okay, that's just 2 marks. So our selling price variance will be equal to the top one minus the down one. And with that, we're good. So we can call that adverse, right?
Yes.
And then we can either we go downstairs or we continue from here. I don't mind continuing from here. So our sales price
Operational.
variance
SPV
operational. I don't know, I would have set everything up before we started this. Now this now has wasted time. So all these things you would have to look at and find the most efficient way of doing it. So we look up again. We're comparing actual with revised standard, Abi. So we have actual sales price.
Standard.
Remember that our quantity is not changing,
Actual selling
Abi.
price.
So actual sales quantity, right?
Same. Yes.
And then we go to this other one, and we have revised standard, right?
Reverse standard price.
So revised standard price and actual sales quantity. So nothing changes for the price. All right. So our actual sales price is what? Actual sales price, selling price.
40.40.
So 14.4. And then the rest of it, we already have that. So we can just go and pick the revised standard. We can come here and pick the actual sales quantity and replicate that actual sales quantity in this place. And that's all we need. So with that, we're good to go. So this will be equal to that multiplied by that. And then, of course, we copy that. We can have that. And with that, we can do our, instead of that, I would have called this planning. All right, so with that, we can do our operational now. And then our operational. So our operational will be equal to this minus that. That's all. That's favorable. And that's all. So 4 marks in the bag. We can move on. Right? Is this fine? Any question? Everybody's quiet.
Okay.
You said what?
I have one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
My question is, how do you know that the average market price is the reverse standard?
Because it's the average market price. The revised standard is what the standard should have been. If we have an average market price, that should give us what the standard should have been based on market information. I generally say that once you see anything in the question that is not what it's not the standard or the actual, that will generally be the revised standard. But in this case now, the logic for using the average market as the revised standard is very logical, because if you take an average of the market, that should have been what your standard. That will give you an idea of what will be, if you're doing better than the market, then you'll be above the average market. If you're doing less than the market, you'll be below the average market. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, so that's that. If the question continues being this easy, then that would be a problem. So we move to B now. Is that A?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to do as much as we can for the B before we come back. So that's A. All right, so B now. The B said we should calculate the mix and quantity variance, sales mix and quantity. All right. So, and we know that we'll use our volume variance for that. So our original pro forma for our volume variance. So what do we have there for volume?
Actual sales quantity and budgeted sales quantity.
Actual sales quantity, standard profit margin. So we're using our standard profit today because they've told us that they use absorption costing, right? And then we have budgeted sales quantity, standard profit margin. So we know now that if we want to do, remember we're doing for all the commodities in this case. Now, so for all the commodities, we'll have to pick our figures carefully. So now, to get that, all right, to get this now, we'll need now want to do our mix and quantity variance. So come back to what we know again. So actual sales quantity, standard profit margin. Then we'll also have another, we're doing 1, 2, 3, leave space, another one. So we'll also have actual sales quantity, standard profit margin. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, space, 1. Then our budgeted sales quantity, standard profit margin. Now, the only other thing to remember is that in the middle of this, we're going to have our standard mix. Our standard mix here. Right?
Yes.
All right. So, the top minus the bottom will give us our mix, right? Because the only thing that is changing there is mix. And then this will give us our quantity, the one down.
Quantity.
All right, so we're good. So we start, we start from down going up. What happened? Why is it that when I write something, to change by itself? I thought I wrote budgeted sales quantity here.
You didn't write good.
You said it and wrote something.
Are you serious? These village people, they're doing overtime now, and it's not good for their health. All right. So we start with our budgeted sales quantity. Remember, we have commodity 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So commodity 1, commodity 2, and commodity 3. Under exam conditions, if you can't copy and paste this thing, please just write 1, 2, 3, or don't even bother.
1, 2, 3.
Problem is if you don't write it and you forget what you're doing, then that will be an issue. Now, our budgeted sales quantity for commodity 1 is what?
30,000.
30,000.
28,000.
Commodity 2, 28,000.
28,000. And 26,000 for
And
commodity
commodity
3.
26. All right, that would have been great until we get to standard profit margin. So our standard profit now. Okay, so how do we do our standard profit?
Subtract variable costs from the standard selling price.
All right, so if you subtract variable cost from the standard selling, you get contribution.
Okay.
But they asked us for
Then
profit.
Profit. So there's a fixed cost somewhere.
Yeah, there is.
There's also a fixed cost.
Oh,
And
okay.
to the ratios.
Absorption costing. We're going to use the time, machine hours as the overhead absorption rate.
All right, so you're seeing the whole story now. So the whole story is that since the, what's his name? So that they will know that we read the question. Block co. So since
Block co.
block co uses absorption costing, what we can say now is then the standard margin that's our standard profit margin. The standard margin will be equal to the selling price minus the variable cost per unit minus the fixed cost per unit. And if you've looked at this now, our issue is so I don't know whether under exam condition it will be easy to do this. Okay, so let me do this instead. Selling price. So we have commodity 1, commodity 2, and commodity 3. I don't know whether if I copy and paste, I think that's what was there before. Have I put any other thing now? So I just copy that. Sorry. So what did we say our sales price were? As our sales price, remember it's standard we're looking for. So our standard selling price
30, 35, 41.60.
So standard selling price. All right. So you said how much? Did you say 30?
30, 35. 30.
30.
Yes, 35.
35. And
41.60. 41.60.
41.6. All right. And then our variable cost per unit now. Standard variable cost per unit is what?
18. 18.
18.
28.
Yeah.
28.40. 28.40.
28.4. And
26.4.
What's the last one?
26.4.
26.4.
All right. So our issue now is with our fixed cost per unit. And then so we can go downstairs and do that working.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
so to calculate our fixed cost per unit, our fixed cost per unit, we need the overhead absorption rate because they use absorption costing. So the OER, therefore, they have come back to haunt you. That's what you say you don't want to learn. So therefore, our overhead absorption rate is equal to budgeted, budgeted overhead. I didn't hear you.
I think the sound is coming from
From who? Okay, I should have been able to find the person. So our budgeted level of activity now is what?
What are left activities then? 0.0
Of activity.
30 times 0.2, 0.6 times 20,000.
All right. So our budgeted overhead is equal to how much they tell us their budgeted overhead was?
174,400.
174.
400.
400. And then our budgeted level of activity will be equal to, for all of them. So they said they use how many for, so 0.2, 0.6, 0.8, Abi? So that's 0.2 multiplied by 30,000
174,400.
0.6. Is that 0.6? Or is it 0.6 multiplied by
6.
28,000?
28.
Plus the final one is 0.4,
0.8.
right? 0.8
8.
Times
multiplied by
26.
26,000. All right, so we can come and put those two figures here. So this is equal to, and I can do the same thing again. Anyway, my laziness is not here again. So 0.2 times 30,000 plus 0.6 times 28, right?
Like the noise is coming from Abby.
Abby, yeah, Abby, can you mute your?
All right, 28,000 multiplied by 0.8 multiplied by 26,000. Oh, but there's something. Wow, that figure is not possible. I've made a mistake somewhere. Okay, I said times plus. Don't worry, it's me. So plus, that should be it. Wow, I don't understand this figure. Please check, oh. Something is happening.
36 is right.
You said, huh? 43.6 is right.
Correct. Yeah.
They just come and check my working. So therefore, we can say therefore our OAR is equal to, we can come and put that figure. So it's equal to the budgeted overhead divided by a budgeted level of activity. 4. Wow. All right. So, and then our fixed cost. So the fixed cost per unit will be equal to the OAR multiplied by the whatever it is, the hours per unit, the hours, Abi. What did they absorb it based on?
They absorb it
Hours.
based on the hour.
Machine
By
hours.
machine time.
Machine time. Machine time.
All right, so we can fix that in. So our fixed cost now will now be 4 in every case. So the and 0.8. Please, I implore you to please make sure that I'm not making any mistake, so that I don't make you cancel. All right, so that multiplied by that, and with that we can do it for all the 3 of them. So that's our machine hours. So sorry, that's our
Fixed cost per unit.
Fixed cost.
our fixed cost, right?
Yeah.
All right, just to help whoever is reading this. All right, so that's OAR. Machine hours and fixed cost per unit. All right, so we take 3 of them. And then we can put them where we started. And with that, we've done the hardest work of the question. Oh my God. All right, I don't have time to spend on that experiment now. So 2.4, I'm not ready to start dollarizing anything. And 3.2. All right, so with that, we can get our standard profit now, right?
Yeah.
Standard sales price, okay. So standard profit now. So our standard profit will be equal to this one minus that one minus that one. So that gives us our fix. So 11.2 for the first one and then we can get it for all of them. Okay, all right, so we need that standard profit too many times. It doesn't work the first time, then I'll have to adjust it because I need it 3 times. I'm not expecting you to work your normal, yeah, of course. All right, as usual, you come and give me a headache. Where am I going to start my dollar
Space special, Brian.
from now? All right, so I have to right click will not work in the exam, so not something I want to do. You cannot right click is not in the it's not in your formula sheet in the exam. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir?
Yes. Okay. There's no right click in
It's
there.
not. There's no right click. It will right. There's no right click. That's why I've always said I only want to do
What is available there?
the ones that I know that are in the exam. What's available in that spreadsheet, and I know that there's no right click in the spreadsheet.
Like you can be in the worst mood and
Wow.
just
I hope that sound I'm hearing is not. Are those figures correct still?
I know you might not notice
4.2, right, for the second one?
I'm getting
like
frustrated with work and business. I'll come to your place till overnight and watch the way you handle your own business. It's mostly
can't see. All right, and then finally, the last one is 12. So that one still doesn't work. Yeah, I expect now. I think I can easily take that. So you're going to have some issues in the exam, sir. Which can't definitely can't pay special. So in that case, now I can solve. Absolute sign will still work in the exam. So that's the one you can use, even though it's faster. Is this faster?
If you have determined that that's what you want to use.
I didn't hear you.
Can you format this?
I don't want to use
No, but I'm saying that you can't do some things in the exam. Looking for only the things that you can do in the exam. You can't format the cell in the exam.
Okay.
That would affect the integrity of your exam. But I think you can do the dollar one. So that's why I'm constantly saying my context to try as much as possible to lead what you can do in the exam. And I know that you can't format the cell in the exam. And like I said, we are going to do that shortly. So if you can't copy, you're just going to have to write those things and write them fast.
We'll have written them by now, no, Brian, if you're written them.
That's what I'm thinking. All right, so our actual sales quantity, I don't think we finished our work. We're still back to actual sales quantity. We said actual sales quantity at the standard mix. We first of all have to get the total actual sales quantity, Abi. So we can just call that work 2 under. That will be a very short work. So work 2. Our total actual sales quantity will be equal to, what's our sales quantity? 29,800, right? Plus what?
3,400.
3,400 plus
25,600.
25,600. Please, everybody, please remember that every time you see standard mix, you're going to get your total actual sales quantity. Unfortunately, for anybody that wants to look at this, just as what we did. We'd have to do some things to help them to be able to see where we got our figures from. In the exam, you won't need to or be required to do this. All right, so that's our figure. All right. So we take that upstairs. I'll put it for every one of them. Then our mix now. What's our mix? So our mix will be based on our standard. So we have to go to our standard, and basically we have our standard mix now. So we'll have to do a working for that too. And you didn't have to, if you know it, then you can do it in the exam straight up. So our standard mix. Now, first of all, we need
0.36.
our total, our total.
Our total actual sales quantity is already there.
No, it's not total actual. We need total budgeted for the standard mix. It is, so our total budgeted
sales units.
Units will be equal to, so that's 30,000, 28,000, and 26,000. I don't think we've written that anywhere.
We did, we didn't total it.
Did we?
We didn't just total it.
Where it was.
Yeah,
but you see what I'm saying is, when you're doing your work in the exam, then you won't need to be doing all these things. Why I'm doing this one is for people that are reviewing it. So in the exam, the problem is, can you remember it? That's the issue. Once you can remember it, then just do it as quickly as possible. You can go and total wherever it is, wherever you've written it before, and then just get your answer straight from there.
And put it there.
And then use it directly. So that's me, I would have done 30, 28, and 26, but someone had warned me before. That's why I'm protecting myself from annoying somebody. So that's 28, that's not 28,000, and that's not 26,000. That's the problem with all these things.
You wrote 280,000, 260,000.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. That's what I just said.
58 plus 28, so 84.
That's 84,000. Okay.
All right. So I can now come and clean those ones. All right. So we can now do commodity A, commodity B, commodity 1, commodity 2, and commodity 3's figures now. All right. So so I can come and so much writing commodity 1, commodity 2, commodity 3. So that's a and this, like I'm saying, this should never have been done here. So it's my system that is misbehaving. So we have our standard mix now. for our standard mix, the first one will be based on its 30,000. So that's 30,000 divided by that one. Now this will be difficult to pick. I'm not going to. I'll go back.
Why don't you use these fractions, Brian?
Yeah, but
The difference is a
it's
lot if we don't use, if you divide it here and put it.
I'm really challenged now about what to do. So 28,000. I'll just go and write the same thing. I will write it upstairs.
Okay.
I'll write it upstairs. I won't do the. And all I will just do is to point to work 3, Abi. That's all I'll do so that the person will be able to see if you're reading it later. So I'll just, let me make work 3 very clear. And I'll write work 3 there so that someone will be able to appreciate what happened. I think that's the best I can do. All right, so but is this one not causing more confusion? It's not going to cause more confusion.
So if you
How?
Come and write work 3. Let me just copy it. I think that's the only way that this will work now. Because I'm taking the whole thing. So whatever it is, it will still do that same thing on Excel. All right. So I think I'll remove that work 3. Let me not cause problem. That's adding another formula to a formula. All right. And then we have that. And then finally, we go up. What's our actual sales quantity? We already have that. Okay, so our actual sales quantity is 26,000, right? Actual.
29,800.
Actual was 29,800. And then the next one,
3,400.
3,400. And then finally,
25,600.
25,600. All right. So that's that. All right. So this is equal to that multiplied by the other one. And that's good to do for the 3 of them. Copy that. And paste it on the one that works the same way. We have only the last one. So that is now equal. This multiplied by the ugly fraction and multiplied by the less ugly one. Okay, so you see that it did what we wanted it to do, Mr. Richard. It's only the last one that has a point.
Because there's okay, it rounded everything up. But you see, there will be some little difference with the final answer at the back.
It doesn't matter to me at all. I've never even checked it yet. Not ones. All right. So we have our final answers. So we just come. So we come to the first one. So that will be equal to solve everything. And as we know, it would we need to go from the last one. And what did we say before? So that figure now, you can copy and put it on here. And then we can also put it there. All right,
Brian,
so we have our mixed variance now.
Brian, what do you have in between your actual sales quantity and standard profit margin?
It's standard margin, it's standard.
And the thing is giving a formula there.
I don't know what happened.
Standard mix.
It's doing rubbish. Okay, so maybe let me just delete it and write it again. All right, so our mixed variance now. What's our mixed variance? The top minus the bottom. And so we'll call that favorable, Abi. Adverse.
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 And then we do the second one. The quantity variance. I don't know whether we should have shifted this a little bit. And then the quantity variance is the second minus the third. All right, and that is, why is this one 7 and 7.71? Is there an issue with this? Favorable. Oh, the figure is very, very plenty decimals. All right. Oh. All right, so I just want it in 2 decimal places. Yeah. All right, so that's our work.
This stuff has changed to favorable instead of standard mix again. I don't know what's changing.
I don't know. Is that work 3 that I wrote earlier? Since that time, things have not been the same. Standard mix that is there.
Your post standard mix without the bracket, let's see if it will remain.
Okay. I'll leave it like that and hopefully it doesn't change again. All right, so that's our work. Now we have a discussion to do. So what's our discussion? What's our conclusion on this? The total planning, sales price. So for us to be able to do the discussion, we would have to isolate our planning and operational for both mix, for both price and volume. Do you get what I'm saying?
No.
We'll need to get, for it to make sense, I want to get my total selling price, planning, total selling price, operational. The 2 things I really want are my selling price, operational, and selling price volume, because that's what I can blame. Sorry, is that what I'm saying? Selling price,
Variance.
operational, and sales price, operational, and sales volume, operational. Those are the 2 things that I can blame him for.
Yeah.
Sales manager for. So what I will do is to get my total sales price. I can do the same thing again.
Did you log me out?
No, I didn't. I just saw you come back and I logged you in.
I've been struggling to log back in.
I didn't. Okay, let me flip this now. Ask you, how would you do this one?
How we do what?
How would you discuss this? Let me ask. If you weren't following what I
Where
was
is the former working?
But that former working, we have only one of them.
But the general
The
performance
operation
of
and the
business
dividend,
generally is to get the
Since
total
we're watching
variance.
yeah.
The total variance of which one
Total
now?
operational and total planning.
Not planning.
That's total. Is that sales price or sales volume? Which one?
This sales price that we were given.
And they gave you two for sales price for commodity 1 2. If that's what you're saying, you know. They gave you sales price operational for calculated the third one. So what I was saying was, if you can get the sales price operational variance total for the three of them, so the two that you're giving in the question and that other one, and then because you already have the total mix and total quantity, you have those ones directly. But the mix and quantity, it doesn't really say much. It's really the sales price variance that you need.
When you look at our sales mix, you understand, at standard mix, you understand. Actual sales quantity at standard mix, you understand. We are not absolutely see the volume for us to compare with the budget. You
I didn't hear you.
Because of the way we work it.
I didn't hear you.
Our actual sales, you understand, at standard mix here. Actual sales at standard mix. We're not seeing the absolute volume as the way we did the computation, you understand. And don't you think that will help us in our discussion so that we can see?
If you want this,
so that we can see
sales volume. If you want the sales volume, just do top minus bottom now. You get the sales volume there.
Okay.
The mix is just in the middle. As in, it's just the middle one. If you do the top minus the bottom, you get the. And if you add these two, you will get your total sales volume. So the two of them will give you a positive 3,000 because this is 13,000. This is 16,000. So it's about 3,000 something. So you can get that. That's not a problem.
No, what I'm saying is this. If you look at our actual sales quantity at standard profit margin, you understand, for the standard mix, for the standard mix, you understand, you know, you know, for the standard, we did get the absolute, we did not bring out the absolute figures in our computation, you understand.
The absolute figures of what?
Of like 800 times 0.357143, you understand?
Okay, to
you
get,
know, we didn't get the,
and then compared with the actual lobby.
Yeah, don't you think it will aid if we have the absolute volume and compare with the actual? Don't you think it will aid in our discussion?
But if we think about it under exam condition, how many things can you do that will be sensible for you to be able to get the question quickly, for you to be able to get the marks? Because if you want to do that now, that's another hard work, if you will. However, we know that our mixed variance is adverse.
But Brian, what about the initial? Because what we did, we only just did for commodity 3. And if we just saw that, that they said we should assess the business, we needed to have done for everything.
So what I'm saying is they've already given you commodity 1 and commodity 2.
So
you can add them.
They gave us.
Giving you now. That's the question.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Okay, that's fine then. Oh, that's all.
And so we can add the 3.
So let's look for the sales price variance now.
Add to the 3. Add this one to the third one, and then we'll make our comments.
And then you can instead of giving yourself stress, it's easy to still say that one. It's easy to talk about the fact that the mixed variance, your mixed variance is adverse, showing that you sold more of the less expensive one and less of the cheaper one. And we'll look at which one has the highest profit margin. Commodity, you will see that in your actual mix, you will sell less of commodity 3 and more of commodity 2 because commodity 2 has the least profit. You already know that. You can discuss that. That's one point that you're giving. The more important thing is the sales price variance to be able to, first of all, we're looking at the total volume, total variance, the total volume variances. Well, good. Solve the ones I'm supposed to. All right, so let's look at our Unfortunately, we'll have to. So that's our sales price. That's sales price planning. Total sales price operational. Call time on that.
For plan is 65, 560.
Remember, we're doing for each of them. So
Yeah.
that's commodity one now. You said
Number one,
65,
560.
560
Yeah.
plus commodity
Plus
two.
-6, 240.
So minus, you said minus 62.
Minus 56,
56,
240.
240. And then plus.
Still minus 64,000.
Oh, the one we calculated.
The one we calculated.
64,000.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't remember saying 64,000.
No, 64. Be and one.
So let's go. 64,000. Wow, I can't remember saying that. Okay, so 64,000. You're right. Absolutely. All right. So that's an adverse.
Yeah.
And then our
Operational is minus 35,760.
So that's minus 35,760.
Plus 25,840.
760.
Why
Plus
is
what?
it two places?
25,840.
25. I'm coming. Let's finish first. 25. That's plus now.
Yeah.
25,840. And then our calculated one
is 33, 32, 280.
Actually, it's not 33 to 80.
Don't worry. Let's just go and take it from there.
It's 32 now.
It's 33.
Eh?
280. So you can come and make your comments now. You're looking for 5 marks. I'm just doing what you want. All right. So, and then the total sales price variance is what? It's favorable. Okay, it's adverse. Yeah. So total sales price variance is the top one. Is that plus now? Plus the down one. All right. So that's adverse. And then finally, our total sales volume variance. Our total sales volume variance, we can say is equal to, and then we climb up. So those two figures, this and then plus this one. So that is favorable. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we can use this to discuss now. So the total sales price variance for the period is adverse might, and I'll do exactly the same way I did yesterday, might on the surface look like a poor performance for what's the name, Blockco, and the sales manager in particular. So, however, distinguishing between the operational, so between the planning and operational components, we see that the planning variance, which is as a result of the economic recession more than any other thing. And so, outside the control of the manager of the company and manager is, what's that now? 54680 adverse. However, the operational variance for which the manager is responsible is favorable. What's the figure? 23360 favorable. And so implies that would be my conclusion. Okay, so this indicates that how did they say, what did they say he does? That he deals with suppliers. How did they phrase it? So that you would not be too far away from what they told you.
To negotiate the actual sales prices
Negotiation
with customers.
by negotiation by the sales customer, by the sales manager with customers, added value to the company. Now, also the mix variance is adverse which is expected as due to the recession, it is likely, or yeah, that there would have been more difficulty in selling the more profitable. What product is that? Product or commodity?
Commodity 3.
Commodity 3. On the other hand, now we start doing the mixed variant, sorry, the quantity variance is favorable and showing that even with the economic challenge, the company was able to sell above the average industry level.
Market.
Yeah, market industry, because they're in an industry, that block industry. So now that's already too much writing, but overall we can conclude that block co and the sales manager in particular have performed well over the period in review. So now this is the point where I'd have scrapped out one of these things or two. So how many points is this? One, very long. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, so it's not too far away from where you are going to. Is Ayo here?
Yes.
No. All right. Is this fine? I could have been more specific. I could have gone to start talking about the mix variance in more detail. I could have gone to talk about the quantity variance in more detail. I could have just, since I've done a lot of computation, then it would be useful for me to have used as much of that information without necessarily very detailed in my discussion, because I have a lot to say for a very little proportion of marks. But what I want you to be able to say is, like I said, what is important is the scenario. It's the scenario that is going to drive what your discussion is, what your arguments are, and what will make good argument. So, as usual, I try to be as coherent as possible. Just focus on the things that you're being asked in the question. Our total variance is adverse, so that looks ugly, especially the sales variance. However, if you separate it between operational and planning, the planning part being the part that you can't blame the manager for, the operational part being the part you can blame the manager for. Also, if you're not talking with respect to the scenario, they've told you about economic recession. Any other thing you're trying to assume in your discussion is now not being very value adding because that's not what they've told you. It's easy for you to use that economic recession to explain some of the reasons why things have happened. The planning variance, as expected, is going to be adverse. You don't need to look for anybody to blame for that. Now, Kosi, earlier on, you were talking about the consultants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've completely skipped when you were talking. At that point, I'd not even planned my discussion. However, I see that I've completely skipped the discussion of the consultant, and a good reason for that would be it's not really any value added to my discussion. If I wanted to continue on the point with the planning variance, then I could have incorporated the fact that, but the reason for that plan, we can't say that we blame anybody for the plan in itself. There's an economic recession, so no matter how good your plan was, if your plan was made before the economic recession, then it would have been very difficult for you to have had a plan that would have incorporated that adversity or that adverse planning variance. Do you get what I'm saying?
Sorry, please come again.
Okay, I said that the consultant was involved with setting the standard, right?
Yeah, that's the price.
That's the sales price variance. This sales price, that's the
Standard
sales
selling
price variance. Yes. Now, that whole argument is outside. Is still the planning argument, which is outside the control of the manager. The manager can't do anything about the plan. Even if we're looking at the consultant as a person, how do we decide whether the consultant whether the reason for the planning variance being adverse was because of the consultant stake or any other reason? The major reason why our planning variance is adverse is really because there's an economic recession. If we are made before the recession, then it is unlikely that we would have been able to incorporate fully the recession in our planning.
Okay, but what if the question is demanding for more than 5 what do you call it?
Then I would have broken down. I'd have found it easy to break the things because generally themselves nicely to count of information to you in the scenario. So with respect to what you've computed, you would have already started exceeding the number of things that you need to say.
Okay.
It's fine for me.
You said we'll do 2 questions.
Yeah. What do I know?
You're not good.
What do I know? Yes, I know that God passed man. But there are a few things that why I paused at the point of this last section that we're looking at now. I considered whether, and in some other cases, would have run straight into doing another computation in your pocket, how much profit you're making on each product. However, in this case now, and this is not a mistake, the examiner will generally know what he's doing. In this case now, you're seeing that your most expensive product is the most profitable. That doesn't always happen. So in talking about profitability, we're talking about here is, okay, so I can put that for your own viewing pleasure or whatever I'll call that. So, which incidentally is the most expensive because that's the main thing.
Brian, you're now answering my question I asked about 2 classes ago. I don't know if you can remember.
Yes.
when we're
Please,
talking about mix and quantity. So I said,
yes.
if you're, can you look at it in the aspect of expensive and
Remember
cheap?
what my answer was? What was my answer?
You said it's to be more interesting or more accessible. How would I put it to explain in the way of profitable and not profitable?
So the idea is the mixed variance will be determined by whether it is more profitable or less profitable. It is the more profitable product that will determine an adverse or a favorable mix. However,
Yeah.
in the case of selling in a recession, what will be more important is the more expensive product, not the more profitable product, because the profitability is in your company, in the company's pocket. The cost of that product to the customer is what will determine whether a customer will buy more of it or less of it. I don't know whether you get the difference between it's scenario that is determining our discussion, not that we have something in mind that we're trying to
You're
achieve.
talking about recession because of there's a recession.
Yes, because there's a recession.
Expensive and not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So we're discussing expensive and cheap to the customer because of a recession. However, generally, when we are discussing the mixed variance, our mixed variance will be about profitability. So if a product is less expensive but more profitable, incorporating that more profitable product, more of it into your actual than your standard will give you a favorable mix. I hope you followed me to the end of that.
Yeah.
So the mixed variance deals with profitability, not whether it is expensive or cheaper to the customer. On the other hand, because in this case, particular case, we're discussing an adverse mixed variance with respect to recession, then we can also see that as a result of economic recession, the more expensive customer will most likely be the product that the customer is reducing their demand for. And please, let's also not forget that if we want to look at things, if we start generally looking at about our discussion in performance management, there are things like normal goods and inferior goods.
Yes.
It's not impossible that there will be a higher demand for a more expensive inferior good in the in periods of recession. No? Do you understand what I'm saying? If we want to look at this thing more practically and really with understanding, there's a possibility that something like salt now, because that's not necessarily, it's not an impossible scenario. However, that's not the kind of, because that's a more difficult scenario to discuss. It might be not, except where the examiner now starts giving you those points that the products that are sold are products that are usually in higher demand when there is an economic challenge. Now that will guide your discussion. When you now start seeing strange things like a favorable mixed variance, then it might be because that product is in higher demand when there is a recession. That is why that's the demand for that, or the mixed variance has gone up, which will be different from some of the things we have said up till this point. But it will always be scenario specific. So if you read the scenario, absorb the information that is in the scenario, and start walking through your discussion.
Okay. Now, I believe from
easily.
past questions and from other questions you reverse it. We'll see other examples and
definitely. So I always try as much as possible to discuss it. Usually what I'll do is to talk around this in class. However, now I feel like if writing it is also important, so that at least you would have one or two, a few templates that you can sit down and look at even during revision and while you're reading, so that you can see, okay, this is how I'm going to think about this thing. If you have like 4 or 5 of these things, if you go back and look at the question for the first time, you'll be able to have something to discuss. But importantly, what I'm also trying to do is to talk around other possibilities, because there are other eventualities that might occur. Your own is, if you have an understanding, then you're able to use that understanding to questions and to answer, to have discussions that will be credited with marks. Any question? Is everybody fine with this?
Yeah.